The Jets' 2021 season is almost to a close, but we know the schedule for next season. So I'm going to talk about each and every matchup, what I think of it overall, and there's one thing that I think is actually a little bit concerning, but that should be in every Jets fan mind. What's good, everyone? Jets Takeoff. Just real quick, I don't know the weeks where we will play these teams, but we know who we're playing at home and who we're playing away, so let's get started. Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to be playing them at MetLife Stadium, Part 2. I don't think Mike White will be the starter for us next year in that game, but anyways, the Bengals, man, they just clinched the AFC North. Joe Burrow is really promising. That defense is coming along. It's going to be a tough game, and I have a Bengals fan friend, so I see all the photos of how the Bengals pack their house, so it's kind of a good thing in my opinion that we're playing them at home. I think it's a big advantage, and after what happened last year, I think they might be a little bit angry about losing to us, so I could see this being one of the tougher home games we play. The outcome might not be the same as this past season just because, well, Mike White's not playing, but also just because the Bengals are kind of a new team since we played them last. So the next opponent, let's stay in that division, playing the Baltimore Ravens at home too. Now, obviously they have Lamar Jackson, which will always give them a chance to win, but their team is in a very curious state right now. They have some offensive weapons. They are a run-first team, and the Jets' run defense has to improve, so it can be very tough that way. But John Harbaugh, he's a good coach. He finds ways to keep it competitive, so this will definitely be a good game. But I am a little bit scared that we will lose because Lamar Jackson is very hard to defend, and he's just going to get better next season. But it is a winnable game. It's not like we're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or anything like that. So those are our first two opponents. The next opponent's a familiar foe. I feel like the Jets play them every year. We play the Jaguars at home, so this will be a nice little home field advantage. I think the Jaguars have a lot to work with in free agency. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with their general manager because, I mean, fans are dressing up as clowns to try and get him out. So I don't really have a current prediction for who I think this game favors yet because we don't know what's happening in Jacksonville. We don't know the coach. We don't know the general manager, but they have some nice draft picks. They obviously have money to spend. It's going to be interesting. I would not write that off as an easy win quite yet. It's also going to be fun seeing Trevor Lawrence versus Zach Wilson Part 2, so I'm very excited for that game. I think it'll be a fun one. The Detroit Lions are also going to be playing us at home. The Lions are a similar team to us. I feel like they have really embodied the all-gas, no-break mantra that Saul was trying to preach this year. But heading into next year, Jared Goff is the assumed quarterback. There could be a new one next season, so we don't know that for sure. But what I do know is that they will be ready to play us at MetLife Stadium. This is not a cakewalk game, I can guarantee you that. They are aggressive at the line of scrimmage, so their offensive line are just powerful, so it's going to be tough defensively to counter them, but I think it will be a very fun one. Dan Campbell versus Robert Saleh, two of the more polarizing head coaching candidates from the offseason, so it'll be a nice little square-off. I think the Lions will be in a similar state to us. Next season, I don't think they'll have as much expectations, but they will definitely be more competitive. Staying with the NFC North, we're going to be playing the Chicago Bears at home, and I actually am so glad that we are playing them at MetLife Stadium because Soldier Field is known for kind of being a defensive stadium just because the grass quality is really bad there. It can get really windy. It can impact the field. I mean, there was that one windy game that they played the Niners in, so we're not going to have to deal with any of that bullshit. We can just play the Chicago Bears at home. This will be an offensive route, in my opinion. It's going to be fun. Justin Fields versus Zach Wilson. That is fun because I remember back in the draft process, that was the whole debate. Justin Fields, should we draft him? Should we draft Zach Wilson? Which one's better? In my eyes, I like them both. Fields obviously is a very high ceiling. He's a hell of a player. And it's going to be interesting to see because they have a new, or they should have a new head coach and a new GM next season. Their team is a little bit of an interesting team as they can't really tear it all down, but they can't really start a complete rebuild, if you know what I mean, because of their contract situation and draft capital, because they don't have a first-round pick. But I think this is a very winnable game, and it will be a fun one, too. That's what I'm excited to see. Quarterbacks going at it, see how the defense can play Justin Fields, rising star in the NFL, is what we're kind of all thinking he will be. And then the last three home games are versus the Dolphins, Patriots, and Bills. The AFC East, this always happens. Now, I think our game against the Patriots will be competitive because we usually play them competitive at home. When we go to Foxborough, it's a completely different story, so I think that will be an interesting match. It'll be tough to win, obviously, because the Patriots are just going to get better. and we should get better too, so I understand that, but it's always going to be a tough one. Josh Allen at home. We play the Bills a little bit better at home too. It'll be fun to see. The Dolphins. It'll be interesting to see how they do this offseason. Will they bring in a new quarterback? I think it could change the whole landscape if they get Deshaun Watson or some other competent quarterback like Russell Wilson. That game will definitely be circled in, and depending on where these 3 home games are played, hopefully they're maybe played more towards the beginning of the season, because these 3 games could have massive implications if we are playing them towards the later half of the season. Because I do not want to play the Patriots at home in Week 16. I just don't want to do that. I feel like they will come more prepared because Bill Belichick has obviously a lot of experience around that time putting together competent football teams and game plans and just executing. But those are 3 games that will be nice. So 8 home games. A lot of those are going to be fun. I'm glad that we played all of those teams at home for sure, because I think if we play them away, maybe minus the Lions game, I think it would be better. So let's move on to the 9 away games. So those are all the home games, and now we have 9 away games, and I'm actually just going to jump right into it. This was my biggest concern with the schedule, is the amount of road games, because this season the Jets only won 1 road game. 1 out of 8. Not good at all. I mean, it's really not, and we beat the Texans, so it's not like it was a Tennessee Titans caliber team where you could be like, yeah, that was an awesome road win. So what I'm concerned about is this team doesn't really have that much experience closing games on the road, which is a lot harder to do because of all the fan noise, the crowd, the reactions, just the added edge, I guess, it brings to the whole team. Like, we have to seal this where it's a road game. We can go pull off an upset in their stadium. So I'm really concerned about it. I'm just going to be honest, because we're a young team. This team does not have too many veterans, so these road games will be very tough. And considering the difficulty of these opponents, like the Green Bay Packers, I am very nervous, and I would not be surprised at all if these road games are going to be tough and losses, to be frank. That's personally how I see it. Things can change because of the draft and all that, but my initial opinion is that there are more road games that the Jets have to play. Therefore, because the Jets have not really won on the road, and they're composed of young players who have never won really big games on the road, that we will struggle and maybe have some second half collapses or just not be prepared to go take on these teams. Let's start off with the big boy, the Green Bay Packers. We're going to be playing in Lambeau Field. I might actually just go to this game. That sounds so fun. Taking a trip to Lambeau Field, seeing the Jets and the Packers, even though Packers will probably win. Who will be their quarterback? Because apparently Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are on better terms now, so if he's there, it's going to be a really tough game. If not, Jordan Love. It'll be interesting to see how he does. Hopefully this is towards the, from a fan perspective, I want it towards the end of the season, just because it's snowing in Lambeau and it's the frozen tundra. But for the Jets, they better be praying this is early on in the season, so it's not like -10. Although we do practice in New Jersey, so we do have a similar, I guess, climate to them, although not as cold. It's still damn cold in New York and New Jersey sometimes, so it's going to be a tough game. That one is probably the hardest we will play all season, and I'm excited to see how. Also, another storyline in that, Mike LaFleur versus Matt LaFleur. Little brother action right there, so that's another reason that I'm circling this game on the pen and paper, being like, I cannot wait to watch this one. Might be a bad result, but there's a lot of cool stories heading into that one. Let's keep it within the NFC North again. We're playing the Vikings away. So the Vikings are an interesting team too. What are they going to do with Kirk Cousins? Will they have a new head coach? Because they have some very good pieces. They got Dalvin Cook, obviously, so it'll be a challenge for this run defense that has struggled. And for them, Justin Jefferson. So that will be a true defensive game for the Jets, where they have to come on their A game. It'll really show whether this Jets defense has taken a step forward, because this season it was a little bit disappointing. So next season, this is going to be a real big test. Don't come into it with huge expectations, but it will be interesting to see if Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich have really improved the defensive scheme and have gotten their guys ready to play against the Minnesota Vikings. And Kirk Cousins, a very underrated quarterback in my opinion. It's going to really depend on the circumstance of their quarterback situation and head coach, because if it's a bad one, it might be a little bit easier. But anyways, it's an interesting game. I think it'll be fun. It's indoors too, which is nice. We don't really play that many indoors games against other teams, I don't feel like, so it's a little niche one. Now, this is a cool one. The Jets are going to be playing in Seattle against the Seahawks. Now, the reason why a lot of people are going to love this game is because it's Jamal Adams versus the Jets. What's going to happen? Imagine if the Seahawks win this. They will be boasting like, we won the Jamal Adams trade. What if he has an interception? Ooh, that would be pretty tough to see as a Jets fan. But on the contrary, what can happen is Zach Wilson and the Jets can go put on a clinic in Seattle and show them up and be like, thank you for those draft picks because we're a top team now. It can be something like that. Obviously, Russell Wilson is there or not will be a huge factor. And Seattle's a tough place to play too. It's not going to be a cakewalk for Zach Wilson. You'll have a tough time hearing Mike LaFleur in the headset because it's one of the loudest places in all of football to play. I like that challenge. This is a game that a lot of fans will probably be like, the Jets will win no matter what. I'd halt there, to be completely honest. I wouldn't say that it's a guarantee win, but it's a tougher win, but it's one of the better chances we have on the road. Another tough road game for us is against the Denver Broncos. They embarrassed us this season when we went there. It was ugly. The offensive performance was disgusting. The defense got kind of exposed by the Broncos too. It was not a good game at all. It was actually the game that I turned on, and I did not turn it back on after like the fourth quarter, halfway through. I was just like, I cannot watch this. It's so bad. So the reason why I have this one as a tough game is because we're playing in Mile High Stadium. The elevation in Denver does have an effect on the players a lot. I think it's a huge advantage for the Denver Broncos playing high above altitude. We are going to have to rotate a lot of players in. It could provide more opportunities for the Denver Broncos, a team more accustomed to that situation, to stay on the field and put together some nice plays and drives. Who's their quarterback going to be? But I think Denver has one of the better rosters in the entire NFL, minus quarterback, so that's why I think this is a very tough game again. Denver has bested us whenever we've played them there. I remember in 2017 we got embarrassed too. That was where Josh McCown broke his hand. It was very sad. And then this past season it was ugly. So I have low expectations for this game. This is definitely, in my opinion, probably, along with the Packers, the toughest road game in my humble opinion. But it really depends on circumstance again. We're also going to be playing the Cleveland Browns away. Now, the Browns are an interesting team. Baker Mayfield is going to be back. We know that for sure because they picked up his fifth-year option. Barring any crazy trade, he's played terrible at the end of the season, but he's on a prove-it year next year. He will have to step it up if he wants to get paid, so he might go into this game with some extra swag and mojo, and I mean, maybe every game just because he wants that contract and to stay a Cleveland Brown. I like what he has, but their roster is also a top roster in the NFL. Their running attack will be a huge task for this defense. It might be the toughest one, honestly, based on what's happened this season. I think this will be the toughest the defense will have to play, even more against, say, the Vikings or Green Bay. But in addition to that, I mean, the Browns on their own defense have got playmakers. Myles Garrett, that's going to be a tough matchup, whether it's George Fant, who I think it should be, or it's Mekhi Becton. That's a tough game. That's not a walk-in win at all. Not at all. This is this is probably a top 3 tough game too. The Browns, more than I think about it, this is a tough game for the Jets to win. It's not like years past before. In the Browns, last time we played in Cleveland, that's when, wouldn't you know it, Baker Mayfield made his debut and he got the win. So wouldn't that be fitting if he won again? Hopefully not. Hopefully we play upset. It'll be a fun environment. Cleveland fans are passionate. Stadium's rocking. If it's towards the end of the year, there might be some bad weather, which could be something to note. So that's an interesting game. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're playing away. They will not have Big Ben. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be. As it pertains to the defense, though, TJ Watt, one of the best defensive players, and they have Mike Tomlin. Whenever a team has Mike Tomlin, basically the Pittsburgh Steelers only, because he's only been their head coach, the Steelers always have a chance. They always show up with some type of game plan. They stay in games. They find ways to stay in games and be competitive. This is not a cakewalk opponent, too. Steelers fans pack the house. They're very passionate, and their defense plays with some swag. It'll be a tough game for the Jets to win, but I think it is very winnable because we do not know who their quarterback is. We do not know what they're going to do in free agency or the draft. They might draft someone really good. They might draft someone bad. They might sign no one. They might cut a lot of people. The floor is really open to the Steelers team. I might actually try and attend this game, though, because I'll be very close to it at that time, so this will be another fun one, and that wraps up the other teams because we're playing the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Patriots away. all those are very tough games. I think Miami is the best shot we have, and even at that, that could still be very challenging for us because we do not play well in Miami based on years past. So that is the schedule. I hope you understand my concerns with the road games. I think it's a very valid point. I'm not being humble. I think I have it dead on where the road games are going to be very tough for the Jets. I honestly expect maybe 2 or 3 road wins. I don't think we should expect more. It's really tough. The Jets are a young team. They don't know how to win on the road consistently. They've only done it one time. There's going to be new faces here. They're going to be meshing in, and there's more road games than home games. So there's going to be some time changes too. That's another factor. It's going to be really tough for this Jets team. They're going to be put up with a tough ask, kind of similar to 2020. I think we had a very tough schedule that year because 2019 we had a very easy schedule and we only went to actually we didn't even change time zones that entire year. I remember that. So this is going to be a tough one. 2022 season, I'm so excited for. I'm glad we know the schedule. I have a lot of these games that I'm excited for. Now, let's keep our expectations realistic and just remember what I said. But anyways, that's what I have about the schedule. Long video. So let me know what you guys think. I really want to hear it. I put a lot of effort and thought into this. So let me know what you think. I will give a more. I will review this topic eventually once next season is kind of underway, like in July or August. I will follow up on this and I will give legitimate predictions because I will have a better understanding of what the Jets team is because of free agency and the draft and how these other teams might fare. So thanks for watching. Seriously appreciate it. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.